Welcome to Every Night is Game Night, where two busy dads get games to the table by any means necessary. Check us out, along with other great podcasts, at dicetowernetwork.com.
Every Night is Game Night, episode 139, Oh My Ninjas, and improve your play for Race to the Galaxy. Hey everybody, welcome back to Every Night is Game Night. This is Anthony once again with Jason.
Yo, my peoples, what's up?
Alright guys, couple reviews this week, plus another installment of the ever-popular Improve Your Play series.
I love this series.
I'm never on it, because I feel like I don't play a game enough to actually contribute to this.
Hey, you did the first one for Terraforming Mars, what your favorite game?
That is a game I've played enough, yeah, but like most of these games, I'm like, I've played it 5 times, 6 times, I don't know. Like, my advice would not be expert advice.
And I generally have to like yank in somebody who can regulate me. We have a couple of other these Improve Your Plays going on. We love them. I love knowing how to really play a game. Like, as reviewers, Anthony and I rarely get to the point where we get really good at something. So I actually enjoy going back and forth with some folks who really know what they're talking about. This week, the Improve Your Play is for Race for the Galaxy. Partly because it's a cool game, one of my favorites, 9 out of 10. You know, I've just been thinking about it. Like there's all that hype about Wingspan, and Wingspan deserves it. It is a really fun, cool game. But Race for the Galaxy is just the best in class for that kind of game. I think you would agree, right, Anthony?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, especially like in that solo side of things, or honestly, just the flexibility of it and the fact that it's been repurposed into like 6 different games. Like, nothing really matches that.
And it's getting a second edition. It's getting upgrade cards, and it's getting another expansion to the Xeno series. So I'm hoping to take a look at that. So you know, I wanted to just give it a feature. I invited on Annette Villa, Nettersplays, over on the Dice Tower and YouTube, and we chat about it. But before then, we have some reviews. We always give you new games. We always give you reviews. And one of the games, one of the Anthony's going to talk about, I'm really looking forward to hearing about because I traded for it. It's there. I really like the idea of it. So hope you give me some good news, my friend.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
All right, but first we're going to get to Liz. I actually do not know what the segment is this week because we're recording a couple of days out or a couple of weeks out. But in Liz we trust. Liz, go ahead and tell us about another awesome Kickstarter.
Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I'm here to encourage your Every Night is Game Night acquisition disorder. This week I want to talk about Big Easy Busking, published by Weird Giraffe Games. Big Easy Busking is a musical area control game about being a street musician in New Orleans. Can your musicians win the crowd at multiple locations across town and ultimately make the most money? Or will they lose all of their energy and fizzle out? As we can now expect from any Weird Giraffe game, Carla Kopp has built multiple solo bots, each of which has a different playstyle, while also managing to be extremely low upkeep. I'm a fan of Carla's bot opponents, so I am definitely interested in Big Easy Busking. You can even check out my solo playthrough of the game on my YouTube channel, Beyond Solitaire. Happy gaming!
I actually wonder if we should keep doing the Kickstarters, considering that you have sworn them off entirely.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Well, that's not really accurate. I've backed plenty of Kickstarters. I'm just narrowing it down to things. Expansions, designers I know. So I backed On Mars, I backed Terraforming Mars, I backed Anachrony. But I don't know, like new stuff that I'm not super familiar with. I'm just trying to save some money, to be honest.
We didn't feature On Mars. Is that something that people should really look out for?
Yeah, I mean, like, Lacerda has he's my favorite designer, period. Like, he's jumped up to that at this point. And I
thought it was Feld.
It was, but now it's Lacerda. So changes have happened. I know. And there's many reasons for it. One of the reasons is that the way he invests theme into his Euro games, and they're some of the heaviest games around, but they feel thematic. They really, like, he spends a lot of time on that. At the same time, though, he puts a lot of work into making the solo modes actually good. In a lot of big, heavy Euros, the solo modes are kind of tacked on. So I really appreciate that. I've yet to play one of his that is bad. I don't think he has a bad game, to be honest. And On Mars looks to be just spectacular. So, I don't know. I'm hoping it's really good. It's coming out next year. They've already got an expansion announced. It's one of my most anticipated for 2020, and it's only May. So, we got time to go.
And next week, we're going to have the Sadler brothers on, who are releasing a game, Alter Quest, which I'm probably going to back. So you can have your Euro. I can have my thematic co-op. It's
You're right?
we're
Yeah.
all going to be happy. Something for everybody. All right. So let us get on to some reviews. So I am going to start with a game that was Kickstarted. Speaking of Kickstarter, not wide distribution, but it kind of, entered into my sphere and figured it'd be fun to talk about. This is Tiny Ninjas. This was designed by Ryan Leininger, published by Tooniverse Games, number two Niverse Games. So there you go on that. So Tiny Ninjas is a card and dice-based dueling game meant to last about 10 minutes, pack a lot of punch into that 10 minutes. Picture a game that you can play, in an airport, online at Gen Con or something like that. You're just like, okay, I'm going to play a quick dueling game. One of those games where it's not like you have personal decks or anything, like it's not like a Pixel Tactics or anything. Like it is just, you have a central deck of 58 ninja cards and both players draw from that same deck. So it's just a question of who will play that central deck better. So the 58 ninja cards, and they're all cute. He's, chibi ninjas and, just like, I guess little anime style. So, very cute there. So the cards themselves have a defense value and an attack value. You can do both attacking and defending, with both those cards. Each round, you will basically switch roles, attacking and defending. And total sidebar. I probably shouldn't interrupt the review for this, but I was listening to a podcast with Trevor Noah. He's the host of the Daily Show, and he talked about American sports as very socialist. I'm like, what? What's going on here? But like he described it, look, I get the ball, you get the ball, baseball, 3 out, 3 outs, 3 outs, 3 outs. In European sports, you can have one side just completely dominate the game, and it's like, all right. There you go. I never thought about that. I know you're a big baseball guy, Anthony. You ever thought of American sports as like socialist?
No, but I don't think I'll be able to not think of that now going forward. It's so true. But I never thought of that.
Why is it so fair? Why is it like in the free market capitalist America, our sports have to be so fair? We all have salary caps. We all have drafts. We have to evenly distribute, resources and everything. But in Europe, where everything is socialized, you have big welfare states, like, the same teams can just buy all the players and they dominate the games. It's so weird, but I don't know. Total sidebar. Sorry about that. It struck me because of the way the attacker and the defender happen in this game, because like you really do get that sense of like, let's just take turns and, do our thing. However, and here's the trick, and here's what makes this game kind of worth looking at if you like this type of game. The defender, so the attacker draws cards. So like the attacker is going to draw up to a hand of 5 cards. The defender does not get to draw. So you have to make a decision every turn as the attacker, really. Am I going to play a lot of my cards and try to do a lot of damage? Do I think that you have weak defenses? So like you have either weak defense cards or you burned a bunch of good defense cards and you may not have nothing left. So do I burn a lot of cards now, or do I hold on to my hand and, defend against your attacks when you draw, your hand of 5 cards? So like that's a simple decision, but this is a simple game. It's 10 minutes. And, in that space, you could be playing Uno. You could be playing, something that's like really super simple. It has like basically no tactics whatsoever, but you can slap this game in there and it has that kind of core decision of like, okay, am I, do I go for the big attack, or do I go for, like, even if I'm going for the big attack, which cards do I play? Do I play like specialist cards? Do I play just a lot of numbers and just like try to overwhelm me with damage? I kind of like that. That was very, very cool. My one difficulty with this game is that there's a lot of dice. It's a ton of dice. Most of the cards do variable damage, and they block at a variable level. So you're rolling, kind of opposed dice rolls, and sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. And you could do a lot, be really, really smart and just roll crap. I wish there was more cards that had the static damage so that I can focus on that rhythm, that basic cool rhythm of, attacking and defending and all that kind of thing. But for the most part, it's just a light, fun game. Anthony, I know you don't play like a lot of these kind of really breezy, light games, but, Tiny Ninja's not bad. Solo mode, there is a solo mode. It's part of why I looked at it. The solo mode is like it replaces a clever, enemy with not a lot of resources with a dumb enemy that has a lot of resources. You just play 3 cards against yourself every round, and it's there. You can practice. I know people are going to look at this game and see, 1 to 2, this is great. It's a 2-player game. It's just the one player is there to just practice. It's basically like playing Smash Up and playing a bunch of cards against yourself, which is I wouldn't recommend that. It's a 2-player game. It's quality. Light, breezy fun. I don't know if you're in the market for that kind of thing, Anthony, but I can give a decent recommendation, at least a play, to Tiny Ninjas.
Sounds fun. Yeah, it sounds like a button shy game, to be honest. Like something just quick and easy to put in your pocket.
And that style and lots of randomness, and there's crazy powers. Like, okay, I steal cards from you and everything. So yeah, it sounds like actually a level 99 game, like something in the level 99 button shy universe.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. I have to check that out.
All right, so now we are going to get to a game that I'm very curious about. It is Oh My Goods.
Yeah, Oh My Goods it's actually been out for a little while now. I think it was 2015 when this game launched, and it is a very small box card game for €1. It is €1 first and foremost, but there's only 110 cards in the box, and that's it. Nothing else comes here. It's an Alex Pfister game. Alex Pfister of Great Western Trail, Mombasa, Broom Service, Isle of Skye, one of the most prolific designers of the last 5 years. And this is his small, quick, easy entry Euro game. In this game, and theme is like, absolutely doesn't matter, but I'll tell you what it is anyways, because we're on a thematic podcast. You are a business person in a generic kingdom, building up industry. It matters. The basic idea is you're trying to get raw materials and produce goods. So, yeah, Euro. It's a Euro. That's all it is. It's got Clemens Franz artwork, the guy who does all of the Agricola and Uwe Rosenberg artwork. It is a Euro. But it's different in that there are no bits, is no board, it's all cards. Everything is cards. And so that's what draws everybody to this game. It's kind of marketed as, and a lot of people describe it as, a Euro filler, like a heavy gamer filler. It's something to play that's like 30 to 45 minutes, but has some depth to it. In the game itself, what you do, and this is real quick, so I generally don't like to just run through the rules, especially on this podcast, but I'll just kind of give you a rundown because it is very simple. You draw cards, you flip a bunch of cards from the main deck to determine what the raw materials are that are available. You choose a building in which to produce, and it has a mechanic where you can be sloppy or proper. Basically, you produce a 2 or you produce 1. It just depends on what you have available. You build a new building. This is just choosing what you want to build. You don't actually have to build it, but you can plan it now. You flip some more cards to see what other resources are available, and then you do all this stuff. And that means you produce things, you build buildings, you hire helpers. You have to have certain things in play to do most of these things, but it's all fairly straightforward and clearly defined by the iconography. The hand of cards that you have allows you to add different raw materials to the buildings that you're producing with. So every building can produce based on what it's offering, and it requires a certain number of raw materials to produce the new goods it's going to produce. You're going to have what's in the offer, like the main offer that everybody can use, or what's in your hand. And sometimes also what you've built on other buildings. So you might have materials sitting on other buildings, and these are just other cards you've tucked underneath that you can then move over and use to produce new things. The joy of the game, the thing that I like about it, the thing that everybody likes about it if they like this game, is that you're building these big production combos. You are generating materials that then can be used in another building, that then can be used in another building, and you have helpers that kind of amplify each of these steps so that you're producing goods that are at a higher and higher value. So, but by the end of the game, you have more points, right? The game ends when you have 8 buildings, so it's not very long. It really breezes by pretty quickly, which is awesome because it's quick and yet fairly strategic, but also not awesome because the game tends to end before you really get your engine going. Like, if one person gets their engine going, they're going to end the game a little bit quicker than you would hope. So it's a little less Race for the Galaxy and a little more like Jump Drive in that the game just kind of click, click, click goes by real quick. And that's the thing I hear people complain about the most is it's a little hard to catch up. If somebody gets ahead, it's only a race to 8. And usually that person who gets to 8 is going to finish the game out and they're going to win, unless they built a bunch of really cheap stuff. It's a little repetitive because the deck is only 100 cards, so you're going to see the same stuff over and over again. And your engine is often only built about the time the game ends. Now, the counter to that is you have to find a way to be efficient with the cards that are in that deck. This is a thing I like. I talked about this on the last episode. I like limitations in games. I like a game that says, here's a limited number of resources, do something good with that. I reviewed Res Arcana recently, which is not a solo game at all, but it's a game from Tom Lehman, the Race for the Galaxy guy, that I really like because you only get 8 cards and you have to figure out what to do with them. This game feels not necessarily like that, but a similar idea in that you're only going to draw a certain number of cards. There's only a certain number of cards in the deck. You got to figure out what to do with them. You got to be efficient with what you have. You can't just wait for new stuff to come out. The game isn't that long, so do what you can with what you have. But of course, whenever that's the case, luck plays a pretty significant role there. The other part of this review, and I could leave it at that and just say the base game, it's fine, it's a play, it's fun, but it has some holes in it. It ends too quickly. It can, runaway leader issues, etc., etc.
Yeah, get to the good stuff.
Yeah, so the expansions really add a lot to this game. So there's 2 expansions. The important one is Longsdale in Revolt. This is the one you're actually going to be able to find. The other one, Escape to Canyon Brook, is an expansion to the expansion. You have to have the base game and the expansion to play Escape to Canyon Brook. Think of it as like Pandemic Legacy Season 2 or something. They all kind of chain together. So the idea here is it adds a story mode to the game, and the story is dumb and doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but basically people are revolting and the king wants your help. But the thing that matters here is you have 5 different chapters, so 5 different games you're trying to break through. They all kind of tell an overarching story. The story is a little generic, of course, but it does kind of link together, which is, I don't know, it's different for a Euro, if nothing else. The length of the game varies by chapter, so usually the game just ends when you get to 8, which makes for a pretty predictable game and a almost pointless solo mode, because if you're playing solo, you could just not build your 8th as you build up your points. You're just like, I'm just going to keep getting points until I feel like ending the game. This one, yeah, it doesn't really work. This one has a formal solo mode, like an actual one built into the game that pushes you through the campaigns and actually tells you when it's going to end, and often those mechanics are different. So you get character cards, you get new buildings, like 34 of them, which is great, event cards that flip over every round, and then chapter cards that correspond to the 5 chapters. So things change, rules change, new ideas come in, different end game mechanics come in, new abilities come in that kind of go into the deck that you're actually going to be able to use, that come into your hand. Lots and lots of cool stuff. So theme is tacked on, story is forgettable. I literally do not remember any of it. So I played through all of Longsdale. I don't remember what it was about, other than the general theme. So if that's important to you, it's not there. But it does introduce new stuff gradually over time. It builds up the existing mechanics. One of the things people don't like about this game and the expansions is the luck of the draw. I don't think this really mitigates that very much, but it reminds me a little bit of Hostage Negotiator in that it feels super random and luck-based, but if you've played it enough times, you get a sense of what works, of what doesn't, and you can make decisions that make sense and help you succeed. There are certainly situations in which you just have horrible, awful, stupid draws and just lose, but that's not really... Like, if you know the game, you're going to win more often than you lose, and it's not that level of loss mechanic. You're not going to lose 80% of the time. I I think in general for thematic gamers, it's a dry Euro. For Euro gamers, it's a little bit too random. So this is really more for the people in the middle, like me.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you like theme but aren't just like that's all you care about, and if you like Euros but you're not just like playing 18xx games all day, this is a good game. It's just about perfect the balance there, and I just really, really enjoy it. Like the original base game, oh my goods, it was fine, it was interesting, I wanted to like it a lot more, and it just fell flat a few ways. The expansion adds a ton of cool ideas, and there aren't a lot of deck cards in the deck, but because of that, you have to think about it and how to mitigate it and really manage the luck as it swings about, and I like that. You know, it's limitations in a game that really make it a lot better. So I think if you're going to get this game, get the expansion with it. If you just have the base game, you might be a little disappointed. It's not bad. It's a solid play, but if you get the expansion with it, it bumps up to a buy for me.
Yeah, I mean, to me, a game doesn't have to have a great story. You know, like many of my favorite games, the story is kind of laughable. Like the actual, like, kind of sheen of it. There's like, you know, I'm looking at this cover and it's basically a Wrinkle the card game. If I were just to go off the art, but are the mechanisms intuitive? Like, can I pull from, like, do I have to like brain burn, you know, through these turns and everything kind of feels wonky, or can I I think Agricola kind of fights its theme. You know, why do I have to like wait to have a kid? Or, you know, like everything kind of happens in a very, very weird way. You know, but there's some Euros where the theme isn't like there, but at least I can intuit the right moves. You know, so like, okay, if this building makes wood, then I'm going to want these other buildings that kind of use that wood in order to chain it to something else. Like, at least it makes sense. You know, and it isn't like fighting me in terms of like, you know, being dumb. So that's all I want. You know, like Race for the Galaxy. We're going to talk about Race for the Galaxy. Is that a thematic game? Not at all. But like, it makes sense that I'm putting out initial cards, like initial planets or initial developments, and these other cards are going to come in that can build upon what I've done in the beginning. And I can imagine like this cascade of things happening. And I'm not going to call it thematic at all, but it feels good. It feels intuitive, and it doesn't feel like I'm just like playing off the top of my brain. It feels like I'm playing with, you know, like more parts of my brain. I don't know if that makes sense, but it is not just like a game of chess. Chess is a pure mental exercise. This, I'm reaching into kind of a deeper, more intuitive space in order to make all the engine building happen. Race does it the best, but it sounds like this game has the potential to do a really good job with that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that, and just a little more Euro-y, right? It's and more strategic in the long run, because you're trying to build out a chain. Like, the way you win this game is building the most efficient chain of things. Like, if you can set up a series of buildings where one building feeds into the next, which feeds into the next, which feeds into the next, you're going to do a lot better than somebody who has one that feeds into the next, and this other one requires a different resource that then feeds into the next. It's absolutely an efficiency engine, which is one of my favorite types of Euros. It's just trying to find the most efficient way to use a limited number of resources. But it's boiled down to the bare basic mechanics. So it's like a weird game. Like, you look at it on BGG, it's got a 7.0 average. It just seems like, oh, it should be higher. And it's just because pure Euro players want a little bit more, and non-Euro players are like, oh, it's a dry Euro. The expansion, I feel like, addresses a lot of that. Makes it a little bit more fiddly, but addresses a lot of those concerns. And I don't know. I love it. I play this game a lot. I've gone through the campaign, both of the campaigns, actually, with the Canyon Brook expansion as well, a couple times. And it's just
all right,
it's a lot of fun.
Show me sometime. I have Longsdale Interval. I'm looking at it right now, unplayed. I've been teaching myself games for like 5 months ever since my child was born. I'm tired of it. Someone show me games.
Next time we see each other, man, I'm on it.
All right. So that was a couple of quick card games. Tiny Ninjas, you know, obviously like a really fast, really simple, you know, just heads up dueler, and oh my goods gives you that Euro flavor. But we are going to get to the grand poobah, in my opinion, of engine building card games. This is Race for the Galaxy, and this is Improve Your Play. Hey everybody, Jason here. As you heard in the first part of the episode, we reviewed a couple of quick games, but I am here to talk about one of the grand poobahs of quick games. This is Race for the Galaxy, and we are here to help you improve your play. So for this segment, I have called upon a person who is well known in the board gaming verse and who is a big fan. I think this is one of the few games that she's rated a 10 on BGG, which is a don't give those out too often. You know her as Nettersplays. She is Annette Villa from the Dice Tower. Welcome to the show, Annette.
Hi, thanks for having me here. Yeah, I mean, Race for the Galaxy, it's one of my all-time favorite card games. So I'm glad that we're going to be able to sit down and chat a little bit about it.
Yeah, so we do this segment. It's like, we don't have to review Race for the Galaxy. I mean, we came out of 2008 or something. We don't have to tell you how it plays. I mean, you've either played the base game or you've played the app, or you looked at it and you said, "Oh, all this iconography, I'm not even touching this." So I mean, this is a known quantity. So what I like to do with these segments is, if you want to get into it, if you want to, get good at it, because it's definitely one of those things where if you're new and you don't know what you're doing, you are going to get smoked either by the bot. You're playing like the physical bot or the AI bot, or you're playing somebody who knows half what they're doing. You're just going to get smoked. So what I want to do is I want to do a public service for people who don't want to get smoked anymore. But before I talked about in terms of like how to get good at it, I think there is a concept we need to discuss first. And this is why I wanted to have Annette on. She actually, her idea, and I thought it was a good one. So Race for the Galaxy is a tactical game. What do I mean by tactical? Annette, you posed that distinction between tactics and strategy. So tell us a little about what do you think that distinction is?
Well, I mean, there's two ways of playing a game. And for example, like Agricola, it's been around for a while, and I would consider that more of a strategy type of game. Like everything that you decide upon is in the beginning of the game of how you're going to play something. If you're going to play in a certain way or not. And there's little luck in those type of games. It's kind of like you have a plan and you just go through the motions to complete your plan. Things are going to interfere like with different obstacles, different players, how they play, and just you reacting in those small moments. That's what I would consider as more of a tactical element. Tactical games are something a little bit more kind of like luck based and what you're offered at that moment. See, and how you decide is how you apply those tactics, those quick decisions, and kind of come forth towards a basic strategy. So it's like, I find it as like a little part of the whole.
It's funny because you say that, because I think games like Race for the Galaxy get denounced as lucky. Like, I mean, like, what's the difference between tactics and luck, really? I don't know if you had any thoughts about that.
Well, I mean, I think Race for the Galaxy, that something that sets it apart is that, yeah, it could be lucky based on the cards that you draw. I mean, that's as far as the luck that goes behind this game. Like what cards you're given or you draw from the pile. But as long as you can apply yourself and apply like some kind of way to manage, like, oh, like these cards suck. Okay, I'm going to try to draw a lot of cards. Right. For you to be able to make that decision, like that's a tactical decision. Like my next turn, I'm going to try to get more cards because hopefully they'll be better than what I have. And that small decision might not have been in your whole strategy, but it's something you're working towards.
Right. So my thing about tactics and strategy, or like tactics and luck, like what's the difference between tactics and luck? Tactics is you get presented with a bunch of random stuff. Maybe you had a strategy in mind, maybe you didn't, or maybe you just had like an idea in mind, and then the tactics, like the board state kind of makes you change, but then you adjust to another strategy. You don't just like do whatever. A game like, like a quick dice game would be just a straight up tactics game, or like a game like Six Nymph or something. Like you can't plan the head, that's one of my favorite kind of party style games. Like, but in Race for the Galaxy, what you're doing is you have to play what you're given, but you don't just play what you're given. You say, okay, I was going to do this, and then but I'm presented with this crap, as you so eloquently put it. And then you are the wordsmith. So then you go on to another strategy. So, let me go over like the 4 basic strategies that people use. I don't know if you have like a preferred one or one that you would like are excited to kind of do when you're playing. And the idea behind playing Wild Race for the Galaxy is, which strategy are you pursuing? Are you going to pursue a mix of strategies? Where can you adjust where you're trying to go for one thing and it isn't working out? Are you nimble enough to kind of make the other things happen? But it's worth knowing kind of like what those 4 strategies are. Yeah. So the first one is like pretty easy to understand, especially in the concept race for the Galaxy. It's just the produce consume strat where you play a lot of worlds. And the worlds, generally like not many windfall worlds, but like, places that can get some cards, cause that, in race, each planet can get like a good, which is an upside down card that's right, either on top of it or whatever. So then you get a bunch of other planets or developments that have powers that can consume that thing. And then once you get like 2 or 3 of those, like pairs, like a power and then a world that can consume, you just hit that over and over again. Produce, consume, produce, consume, produce, consume. And then you may have like only 6 cards out of your 12, but you're just getting points, all the time. And if you could just hit that, like that's usually where a lot of like new players lose, is like they don't realize that their opponent is setting that up. And then they're doing their tableau. They're like, oh, they're excited. And then the game's over. What? Yeah. What happened? So that's one. Number 2 is the trade strat. So what you do is you get, planets that can sell a lot. So like, the green worlds and the yellow worlds, you can sell them for 4 and 5 cards. You can buff how much they sell for. So you may sell off of one world, which I think is the trade action, and get like 8, 9, 10 cards. And then you do a couple things with it. One, because you're getting so many cards, you might get big scoring cards, like big 6-point developments or things you need. Or 2, you get cards that let you, when you trade, just like discard for points. So there's a couple of like, as a development, there's a planet in the base game that let you like discard for points, which is something, and you just do that every round as well. So like, I'm just going to trade for a whole crud load of cards, discard some of them for points, and then I'm going to get a big scoring thing and then just like make that happen. Again, you're trying to set that up. You don't go into it like, I'm going to do this. You have to kind of have all the cards come together.
Because it is more of a costly, like it does cost you quite a bit to create that kind of strategy.
Yeah, and it's more fun. That's why I lose.
It's hard. It's hard to do that one. Yeah.
I'm always going for that one though. But if I see like plus sale, because I love drawing cards. Like you saying before, if I have crud, then I want more cards. Like I look for that. And I know I'm not an expert in this, guys, but I hold my own. So I'm just like trying to get people to that point. I love the trade stat, but I recognize like if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. The next one is kind of a wonky one because it's dependent on like one card, really. It's the development strat. So you just play a bunch of developments and then there's a 6-point development called the Galactic Federation. Like if you see that, it just gives you -2 costs of your developments and it gives you points based on how many you have. If you see it, just play it and like play a bunch of your developments. Like I've had games where like I'm trying to do this elaborate thing, but then I'll get Galactic Federation. I'm like, oh, I have a bunch of developments in my hand. I'm just going to play this. Done.
Yeah. And that becomes more of a race than an engine builder.
Yeah, that's a race. That part is definitely a race.
Yeah.
And obviously you can kind of mix and match. But these are kind of general strategies. And then the last one obviously is military. Military is pretty straightforward. Military, you have to build up the plus military. You have to have a lot of explore. Because especially in the base game, there's not a lot of military cards in the deck. They improve that with the expansions. But, if you have military, that's what you're going for. And, just like get as many big scoring planets as possible. Keep them in your hand. If plus explore powers become really important, because you have to search for those big planets and not as frequent. So, just go for that. And and so those are the 4 things that you are trying to do. And decide, okay, say I'm going for this. If you're going for one strat, don't go for just, a smidgen of another strat unless you really want to. Or unless the cards really force you to. If you just like dabbling, then you're going to lose. So Annette, are you familiar with that like kind of 4-pronged strategy, or did you understand the strategy of racing a different way?
I mean, you put it down so well, and you kind of pinpoint all the different types. And I'm pretty sure there's like another different strategy with more expansions too. But I think we're just going to talk about these 4. I think you hit it off really well, and you said it well. Like, you have these 4 different types, and based on that first draw of which planet you're going to play,
right,
and that kind of pretty much sets you up for what type of game you're going to play. And so just have those 4 different types like in mind. I think the simplest one is the military to start off with. Mm-hmm. If you're a newbie, and if you get that one, you know, you're given 2 planets, like I usually tell the new person, like, hey, you probably want to play with the military one because that's the easiest one to play with. Mm-hmm. You have to draw some more, so you got to make sure you're drawing those cards, and you know, eventually, like, they'll get that. But as far as like the second strategy that you suggested, the second form is the hardest one, I think. I really can't do trade too well.
You have to have a lot of cards come together, and there's a couple of mistakes people make where in order to do trade stat really well, you have to kind of like, you know, not produce a lot. Like, you have to sell and then sell again and then sell again, and then you produce to get you know, the goods back up. You don't want to be in a situation where you're wasting actions producing, because that just helps your opponent, because your opponent's probably going to want to produce anyway. You just want to be able to trade and then play your big card, play your big card, play your big card. Don't play any cards that consume. Just because a consume is automatic. You know, you have to use it. So it's very particular. It's very fiddly. You have to have those cards that let you discard for VP. But when it works, I get my hand of 20 cards and I'm like, okay, this is great. So, I mean, and that's one of those things where it's like, okay, decide that like early. I think like when do you know, Annette, when you're going to pursue a particular kind of approach to the game? Like after what turn?
I think after I probably lay down my second world,
okay, then
I'm all in. I think when you have your first world, you have an idea of what you really want to do, but depending on that first hand of cards that you draw, and you just have to make the decision at that point. Am I going to pursue this, or am I just going to do something else? You know, and it's also dependent on just that first hand. You know, what should I go for?
So I'm actually curious about this. So you get the starting world, and then you also get your hand. What do you do if they don't match? I just lose. You're like, all right, you got me.
Yeah, it's just like turn it all in. Can we deal out again?
We do. Well, like, let's say seriously, what would you do? Like in that situation where it's like, I got like a plus military world, or I got something, but then I have this cards that just let me produce a lot, or I got a bunch of, you know, I gotta like the synergy just doesn't happen. Like, how would you approach that?
Well, I mean, it depends on your mood, I guess. You could play, I don't know, at that point, you kind of have to like go with your gut. I don't know. Like, military is the easiest. It depends on your opponents too, and like how they play.
Right.
If they play like, I don't know, if you see them normally play a certain way, you probably want to go with something that's opposite. Right. Because of the lead follow element to that Race for the Galaxy brings. So you have to take a risk every now and then. And I think that's like one of the riskiest moments is like, when it doesn't synergize with what you originated, which world you have. Mm-hmm. You kind of have to take that risk at that moment, make that decision, like, am I going to go with this or not? But luckily with this game, like, it's so quick, it's so fast that it plays fast too, that you can easily like change at the very beginning. Like, if you change any more, like if you're 5 worlds in and if you decide to change your strategy because it's not working out for you, you probably lost the game.
You're good. I'm glad you say that, because so we call it leeching, right? So like doing effective follow maneuvers. And there's 2 ways to do that. One is like, let's say you notice your opponent is going for a certain strat. Let's say you're going military. And military depends on a lot of settle actions. So, cause that's where the points are. The points are with the planets. So if you notice that your opponent is doing military, then you can kind of set things up to where you're leeching off of your opponent's settle actions. You use their actions to lay your good planets down, and then you use your actions to something that's going to benefit you. So, like, let's say, okay, you're facing military and you have a couple developments in hand. It's like, all right, I'm just going to let them settle, and I'm just going to use my actions for developments in explorers because I want to, increase my variability. Or, trade strat tends to, like the trade strat where you get a lot of cards, like, especially if you see your opponent has the max 10 cards, they're more likely than not going to develop because that's the best scoring in the game is a development. So if you notice your opponent has like a lot of cards, say, okay, I have this development I want to play, but I think they're going to play it. And then, so let me go, do something else. So like, that's kind of like next level. And I'm not great at that. There's only a couple of instances where I try to make that happen, but it's something to look out for. Like when Annette was saying, kind of go with it. You still, even if you have a cruddy hand, you don't quite know what to do. If you know what your opponent's doing, that actually gives you a little bit of a hook where, okay, maybe I don't quite know what I'm doing yet, but I know what they're going to do or they're likely to do. Let them do their thing, and then I'll explore or I'll do something, and then, kind of play off that.
Yeah. I don't know how many players you usually play this game with. I'm mainly like a 2-player.
Yeah, I'm mainly 2 players. 'Cause I think when it comes to bigger games, you just see all the actions. It's like, okay, we're just doing every phase anyway. So right. I'm okay.
Yeah. At that point, everyone's leeching.
Yeah, everyone's leeching. But like in 2-player, it's actually kind of an art where you have to kind of like if you follow the certain strat, you kind of know what they're going to do, or, and then people get into that whole thing of like, oh, you think I'm going to do this? I'm actually doing this. I don't play it. There is an element of solitaire when it comes to Race for the Galaxy where you're playing your own stuff. This is just kind of like to give you that next edge to play really well. But for the most part, do you approach it as like a kind of a solitaire-esque experience?
At certain points in the game, I think like with 2 players, I mainly play it with my partner. Mm-hmm. So we know, pretty much when the game is like going towards an end, and it's like when you see them settling down and you see that they need a certain move or certain action in order to finish what they need to do, you just make sure you don't do that action. So there's certain times when you kind of like, okay, I'm going to use it as a strategy at this point because I'm just not going to do this certain thing because it's going to help them more. So you kind of have to outweigh those moments and say like, okay, I shouldn't do this because it'll help them more than it'll help me. Just hold back and do something else. Right. And that's when you're reading your opponent more. And I think that's why I really prefer it as a 2-player game. 4-player, it's just too complex. 5-player, it's just chaos. It's not even game anymore. It's like, what's happening here? Yeah.
I know they put in like 5-player and 6-player with the expansions. What are they thinking?
I don't know.
Whatever, man. I think we're getting a second edition of the base game and another expansion this year. Am I right about that, or?
I have no idea. I just got New Frontiers. Mm-hmm. So
what do you think about that one? What do you think about New Frontiers?
Oh, I like it. So I play tested it like a while ago, a couple years ago, and I really liked it then. Mm-hmm. I actually play tested it with Tom Lemon.
Yeah,
and he's a designer.
Local in San Francisco, right?
He is. So I got to play it with him, and he's just like, oh, have you played Race for the Galaxy? And I was like, yes, it's my favorite game. I even had him sign my box and my favorite card. Mm-hmm. The Galactic Trendsetters card. So he signed that one, and then he's all like, well, since you know how to play, he's all like, let's play this game, New Frontier. So ever since then, like, I really enjoyed it. I was waiting for it to come out, and now it's out. And now that you're saying there's might be a second edition of Race for the Galaxy, it's something I'm probably going to have to ask him.
Yeah, I know.
Because I haven't even heard about that.
What does Galactic Trendsetters do?
Oh,
you just like the name?
I just like the name and the art. And I know it does something cool, and I always get it no matter what. If I see it, I keep it.
That's it. So I think that's about it for I mean, we don't want, again, we're not experts. I don't think I'm not an expert at any game. If you're a reviewer and you put out content, you're probably not going to be an expert in a lot of games because you have to like kind of, more breadth than depth, so to speak.
This is not me saying I know how to place Race for the Galaxy and this is how you should play it. It's a matter of exploration. Yeah, I mean, just like any other game, explore it for yourself. Mm-hmm. You can take these points if you like, but I am not saying I'm an expert at this game.
But to familiarize, so you guys, if you wanted to familiarize yourself with some of Netter's videos, she does have a couple of Race for the Galaxy videos, including one longer one where she compares Race for the Galaxy with Roll for the Galaxy. So maybe you can kind of give people a preview of what they can expect on that video if they watch it.
Yeah, it's been a while ago. I first published it when it posted it, the video when Roll for the Galaxy came out. This was prior to the first expansion that it received, so there's a lot of old base game comparisons there. If you want to talk about like the different strategies, which it does change up a little bit based on that consume and produce.
Right.
The order that it plays, it changes up the game a lot, and so if you want to hear more about that, I would suggest you just watching my video on Nettersplays YouTube channel, and I think it's one of my most viewed videos too. One of the few.
One of them.
Yeah, I think I've also made like another video too of the Race for the Galaxy too.
All right, so we have been talking about Race for the Galaxy. Improve your play. Hopefully, get to know those 4 strategies, get to know some of the general approaches that, how to react tactically and be able to kind of morph your strategies, combine them as necessary. And you won't get embarrassed, which is the whole point of the series. You'll have a little bit more fun with it. Annette, thank you so much for taking some time to join us. Please do not be a stranger on the show.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I mean, I always like talking about board games. Race for the Galaxy is my favorite, so this was a great pleasure.
And also Game of Thrones. Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I hope you enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun recording that with Annette. Thank you so much. Like I said before, right at the end of that, I hope that she is not a stranger and that we can get together again. There's some people that's like, it's just like fun to hang out. I have a lot of fun. Anthony, are you a big Race for the Galaxy player, or have you just played a couple times?
Yeah, I'm not a huge player. I mean, I like the game a lot. It just doesn't come out a lot.
Right.
These days. I played the app a few times. I played it solo a few times, but like in a group setting, maybe I've played it half a dozen times at the most. I always enjoy it though. Like that's the kind of game I like. Is you have a hit cards, do something with it. I like that.
Right. All right. So that was some card games, and that is the episode.
Yeah, guys. So that is everything for this week. Make sure you hit us up on all the usual places. everynightisgamenight.com, the ENGN group on Facebook, as well as our Twitter account at ENGN_podcast. But as I said, that is everything for this week. So until next time, grab a solo game off the shelf, and let's make every night game night.
Later, everybody.